Dutchman versus Daredevil Season 3.
Hi, Daredevil Season 3 is a Marvel Netflix series developed by Netflix for Marvel, and it actually comes out at a rather peculiar time for the entire Netflix expanded universe. You know my opinions about Iron Fist and Iron Fist Season 2 probably, and my take on Defenders, but I really love Daredevil. I think Daredevil is still one of the best bits of television put out by this entire block that they've done at ABC Studios for Netflix. But after Iron Fist Season 2 and Luke Cage Season 2, Netflix has pulled the plug on both those series. Daredevil Season 3 has yet to be confirmed to be the last, or perhaps it could still have an upcoming season, but its future is uncertain. Jessica Jones at the very least is shooting Season 3 at the moment as we speak, well, as I speak. This two-way communication is a bit difficult for you to talk to me directly, as you know. Here's the thing, Season 1 is so good. Season 2 could not meet up to that level. It introduced us to the Punisher, and while I really did like the bits with the Punisher, the bit with the hand did not, it did not reach the same heights as it had done before. And I had the feeling that Netflix itself knew of this as well, because we get a season recap, like previously on Daredevil, and it shows us everything about Matt Smith and the Kingpin and even Elektra, but it doesn't give us a single mention of the Hand Ninjas. Okay, so fine, where does this leave us? It leaves us with Matt having been presumed dead after a building collapsed on him, and it's stellar. This series, this season takes a lot of inspiration from Daredevil Born Again and from the consequences of the introductionary arc of Typhoid Mary. Two separate occasions where Daredevil wasn't really Daredevil. He had to struggle and, deal with his identity, who he was. Especially in Born Again, which gets quite a few references in this season of Daredevil. Now I've said Daredevil so many times that it lost all its meaning. Daredevil, 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 Daredevil. Okay, but this season, it starts off really slow, and that's still one of my biggest issues with the entire Netflix things that exist. Because they are all 13 episodes revolving around a singular villain, or, antagonist at the very least, it seems like some episodes are quite filler and just there to take up the time. Well, technically speaking, this should not be a detriment, because a show works with the format. The format does not work for the show. So the writing could be better, but it shouldn't feel stretched out if they were doing something with it. That being said, aside from the first 6 episodes being slow burner, I did not feel that this concept was being stretched out just to fill the 13 episodes this time around. Unlike Jessica Jones Season 1, which was a little bit like we caught the bad guy, we didn't catch the bad guy escaped, we caught the bad guy, there's actually a thread continuing along in the story of this season. As you may or may not know, Bullseye gets introduced in this season, except we never quite have him as Bullseye. I mentioned the introductionary story of Typhoid Mary, who was in Iron Fist Season 2. In the aftermath of that, Bullseye was dressing up as Daredevil in Hell's Kitchen. And that happens here as well. And that's what we get. We get Daredevil versus Daredevil action. And I quite like what they did with this proto Bullseye, because he's not quite yet the character we all know and love. But they do lay the groundwork. They make it very clear he's always been a psychopath who has issues connecting to human beings. They even keep the baseball origin story he had intact, but they age him down a little bit. They make him happen to him as a kid instead of a grown-ass man. Now, I was quite fearful that when they were using Bullseye dressed as Daredevil, they would just have him be using shurikens at throwing weapons all the time, or he'd be brandishing a gun, which, despite the fact, you know, he's the man who never misses, Bullseye just using a gun the entire time would be very boring, very stale. I am happy to tell you that Bullseye throws around everything he gets his hands on. Beer bottles, glass shards, pencils, stakes, batons, snow globes. The snow globe is my favourite. Yes, Bullseye is indeed the man who can turn anything he picks up into a weapon, and I'm very happy to report he actually does that in this story. This season is basically more a direct sequel to season 1 than it is to anything that's happened in season 2. Yes, the only direct consequence is from the Defenders that Matt is, you know, a bit nihilistic, a bit of a death seeker. Like, he doesn't know his purpose in life and he's lost his Matt Murdock identity, and chef's kiss. So it's basically just Daredevil versus the Kingpin with Bullseye thrown into the mix. And that's all you really need. You don't need the mythological building up of a fantastical ancient war between two warring clans that, while it could work in the comics, where the Hand were just usually like a behind the scenes presence, having them as the main antagonists with a nefarious attitude that we don't really know what they want, but it just turns out to be dragon bones, that was daft. The Kingpin is much more personal. It's just a lot more, he wants to destroy Daredevil, but as Matt Murdock. And Daredevil wants to destroy Wilson Fisk, but not as Wilson Fisk, but as the Kingpin. And then you have a psychopath with little regard to human lives. And it just all culminates in a very satisfying season finale. It did feel like it could be a series finale as well, as in this might be the end of Daredevil, because while there is a sequel, Hook, it's not necessarily one they have to pick up or in a future installment. Like, this could be the end of Daredevil, and if it is, I'm quite happy, because after the climax in the final episode, they take some time to unwind. You know how Russell T Davies used to like to give us this bombastic finale for Doctor Who? You maybe don't, because you might not watch Doctor Who. But he always take like a little bit of time to get back to the human nature of the characters involved. So here as well, we get to, you know, Foggy gets to reconcile with his family, you get to realise Matt picks up his life again, Karen Page becomes, you know, she adjusts better to society because she's never really fit in all that much. And yeah, that feels good. That's all, you know, stuff you need, because you can't just have all the whizzing and the banging all the time. You have to get grounded every now and then. So while I did say that the series starts off slow, like the first 6 episodes, I would like to mention that in episode 4 you get a terrific wanna. And a wanna is, I'm not quite sure if that's the official technical term, but it's what I'm going with. Just a single shot without any, you know, breaking up of scenes. If there is a bit where they cut 2 shots together, I could not see it, and I've seen that scene at least 3 times to try and pick it apart. My only personal detriment is that it's filmed in a handheld fashion, so it's got a bit of a shaky cam, you know, quality to it, but never over the top so. And it goes on forever, and in this case, something going on forever is terrific, because Daredevil just starts off fighting inmates, and he builds up from there, and it's like a proper boss rush, except inside a live action television series. This is a terrific bit of TV. Like, choreography, fantastic. You could write entire theses about this. It's probably not as iconic as the hallway fight in Daredevil season 1, but it's loads better than the take they tried to, you know, push as the equivalent of it with the biker gang in season 2. That aside from the prison fight, a lot of the fights in this season are poorly, dimly lit rooms, like including the one at the newspaper office. And these were not as enjoyable as I wish they could have been. But the season finale, the big fight, the final fight, my god, it's in a brightly lit penthouse. You can't go wrong. You can see everything that happens in it. And that fight has consequences. People don't just shrug off potentially spine-breaking injuries. They are hurting and you feel this. We get introduced to a couple of more characters, like Foggy Nelson's family gets a little bit of a limelight. Karen Page gets a flashback scene which gives us her origins, but I'm not too fond of that because I found it better, we were better off not knowing quite so much of the details of how her family was awful and her life was shit. It didn't enrich the character a lot, for me at least. And like I said before, they make it quite clear that Bullseye is not very good at being a human being, and they at least showcase that he doesn't, you know, go from a good guy to a bad guy like that. He actually has had his roots from the get-go that he wasn't quite fitting together properly, and that's a better take than, you know, like somebody just being evil for the sake of evil. Somebody like, haha, I love to kill people. You know, as much as I love Colin's Bullseye, 2003's Daredevil.
I missed. I never miss.
But that aside. So yes, recommended viewing for me. Daredevil Season 3 is head and shoulders above Daredevil Season 2. And not quite as good as Daredevil Season 1, but it's quite up there. So, you, please, let me know, comments, something, social media, something, bells, likes, subscribes, whatever. I'm out. Peace!